Hi, my name's Anne Chander and I'm the founder of Inspiring Women Changemakers, a movement of people who stand for fairness and safety for women. I give changemakers the skills, the connections and the launchpad to make social change. And one of the ways I do this is through my online courses in the Changemaker campus for Inspiring Women Changemakers. I want to talk to you today about creating online courses, and I'm going to focus primarily on Thinkific, which is the platform that I use and where I've had the most experience. So in terms of teaching profiles out there, there are various ways you can create online courses. You can choose to host them from your own website, or you can use a third-party platform such as Thinkific, Teachable, Udemy, or Skillshare. I did my research back in 2017 and I chose Thinkific because what it does suits me very well, and I'll be showing you some of the features in a short while. The benefit of using third-party sites, although the content isn't hosted on your own website, is that they're much more easily findable. So if somebody searches on Thinkific for a subject matter that I cover, they'll find me. And so I've had people subscribe to my courses that I don't know, and they're based all over the world, really. So a tip in naming your online courses on a third-party website like that is not to be too clever about what you call them. Make sure that they contain keywords that people are searching for. How do you find keywords that people are searching for? Well, a great way to do that is to go into your Google search bar and say, how do I create social impact? Or how do I measure social impact, for example? And the top 10 responses that come up are essentially what other people have searched for. So use that to inform the way you entitle your courses. We'll go straight through now to Thinkific so that I can demonstrate how this works. So we'll go back first of all to my course dashboard. It's loading my courses. At the moment, I'm on the free package, which allows you to do 3 courses, but you can have unlimited modules within those courses. The basic version is $49 a month. And with that, you can create online courses. And there is another bonus, which is that you can bundle up courses, which I'll come on to shortly. So you'll see here that I have 3 examples, and I'll talk to you about the Building Social Value programme first. This essentially is a workbook. It's a series of packages that I have put together as a modular programme for organisations and individuals, sole traders who are focused on social impact, to help gather evidence that they need to communicate all the good that they're doing in the world. So before you start, which are some general thoughts and considerations for creating social impact. There are some top tips, and I offer these freely on my website and in other places anyway. But then there is my foundation pack, which covers 6 broad areas of social impact, which include your governance, the way you work with your communities, your customers, your suppliers, and your employees. Then there's an initial checklist, which essentially gets organisations going. So it's literally a tick box template, and you can see, you might not be able to read it, but in this box it says PDF, and it demonstrates what kind of document it is. Then I have some additional checklists around stakeholder mapping and so on. And you'll see underneath here, copy lesson from. If I wanted to copy a lesson from one of my pre-existing courses, whether I'm on the free or the paid for version, I could copy lessons across. So let's say I have a course which is about leadership, and I have a generic program which covers all the core elements of leadership, but then I want to focus it down into a particular sector. So for example, I'm an arts charity chair, and I'm also a governor of an arts specialist university. So I might want to tailor that leadership program specifically for the arts sector. So what I could do here is copy the lesson across and then add in additional modules or tweak it so that it's more suitable for my particular client group. So that's how you do a very passive course. There's no interaction. I'm not speaking on there. There's no video. It's just essentially a portal for me to house a workbook that I've created. This program, however, that I'm about to show you is about Ikigai. So with this one, I've done some courses. So with Thinkific, you can do a quiz, so you can ask some questions, and I've asked a few prompter questions in here to get people thinking about their purpose. Then I have the Ikigai model. You can see here that it is a presentation. So essentially, I have uploaded a PowerPoint slide, which I have then added audio to. Then I have the rules of Ikigai. So all of the rest are of the points around Ikigai have been recorded by me as an audio. I could have recorded those as a video if I wanted to. I decided to use audio. But the great thing about this is that when you record something, you can record slide by slide. So let's say you make an error when you're recording slide 1. It doesn't really matter if you make a mistake or stumble over your words with a slide, because you maybe have to re-record 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or however long it took. So it's not that you have to start from scratch to record a whole 30 minutes. When I record, this is my equipment. So I went online and researched affordable microphones. There are many out there, ranging in price from £20 for a reasonable one, right up to 300 odd, I'm sure. So I chose Sennheiser, which is a very reputable brand. I think the one I bought was around £25. I just went onto Google and read some reviews in order to choose my equipment. But apart from your equipment, your space is also important. I work, you can possibly see behind me a wall. I have a small alcove where I work from, and it can get quite echoey. I have a wooden floor. So when I'm recording my content for professional purposes, I tend to pad out my space. So I might put a quilt on the floor or cushions, which is the next best thing if you haven't got a soundproof recording studio. Soundproofing is important because apart from the reverberation, you want to make sure that you don't have interruption from a family member, a housemate, a pet. So make sure that when you're doing that, you've given yourself adequate time and space in order to be able to create your content. So that's that. I've shown you the different options within Thinkific, and then, as I say, here's my third one. This is in draft form. It's in development and will be launched soon. So if I wanted to upgrade my plan, I could get unlimited courses. What I suggest to people starting out on the online course journey is that you don't do that. Test it out first, get comfortable. You might have to make tweaks depending on your student feedback. And you can enable, that is another feature even on the free version of these courses, is that you can open up a student discussion room, you can add certifications, so you can make people complete a module before they can progress to the next one, and so on. So the flexibility of creating courses with Thinkific, I find, is fantastic. And it really allows for that engagement. Some people have even created member communities by using platforms like Thinkific. So I'm going to stop sharing that screen now and come back to how you actually structure your courses. So you will have seen from what I've just demonstrated that I have a real structure in terms of the way I set out my courses. So I think about what is my student journey, what is it I want to teach them, and what's the starting point potentially, and where do I want them to end up. So really map that out when you're creating your structure, and have a think about the amount of time each of those sessions will take, because learning in a classroom is very different to learning online. It's requires more concentration, you're physically distant from that person, it's obviously not interactive unless it's involves some kind of live element. So all of these things impact on your student experience. So keep your sections as short as possible for that maximum concentration. If I'm doing a video like this, for example, I try not to do more than half an hour because people's attention span tends to be quite short. So chunk it up and allow them to revisit that learning when at a time that's appropriate for them. In terms of creating my content with the PDFs and the presentations, I use a combination of things. One app that I use is Canva, so that's spelt like canvas but without the S, and that essentially helps you to be like a designer without requiring any design skills. Even on the free version, there's a free version and a pro version. You are able to find royalty-free images, different fonts, upload your own photos, tailor it to your own Pantone colours if you already have that branding, or to pick some that you like for that consistency of branding. So Canva is definitely my go-to tool. And in terms of spell checking on your content, the tool I would recommend is Grammarly. So that's like grammar and with ly at the end. It's an extension that you can add to your Chrome toolbar. It's completely free and you can switch it on and off, and it goes over and above spell check because it's not passive. It checks the grammar and the context of the word within your sentence. It does tend to have the American spelling, so if you're from England, from the UK like me, then you might just want to double check again. I wouldn't 100% rely on it, but it's a great first way of proofing your content. In terms of accessibility as well, I mentioned that I chose to use audio only, and that's because I like to offer a transcript of my speaking for accessibility purposes. So if someone has a hearing impairment, I want them to be able to go back, but it's good practice anyway. Sometimes people just like to print off and read and check things. So whether you add captions to a video and or do a transcript, these are all ways that you can make your online course much more accessible. And when it comes to marketing your course, how do you get it out there? You can't expect that you will have hundreds of students just line up and start from your course. You have to combine your online tool across various platforms. So I have a button on my website that directs people to my online school. I market it regularly on my main channels, being LinkedIn for the business community, Twitter and Facebook, less so Instagram, that's my personal preference. But think about the channels where your students are likely to hang out, and that's where you would direct them to your Thinkific school or your Teachable or whatever platform you've chosen. Also consider though, other people's online property. I've talked to you about Ikigai. Ikigai is a Japanese model, but I first came across it by a Canadian trainer, and it was in his book, What is Your What? And he hadn't identified that this was not his model. And okay, where's the copyright attached to an ancient Japanese model? But it is good practice, and if you are using bits of learning from either a book or somebody else's course, make sure that you have the appropriate permissions and give the right credit where you need to do so. That's key. I have been asked, can I charge for my courses on the free version of Thinkific? And the short answer is, of course you can. So the only restriction is that you can only have 3 courses. And in terms of pricing, there is no exact science. I just do my research. I look at what other people in my space are doing and what they're offering and how they're pricing it. But the main thing is just to test. You can always increase or decrease your price at a later stage, depending on what your outcomes are. But just be careful if you're going for a decrease, that's not ideal really, because I'd always start smaller and go bigger, because if you've got loyal students that have paid more, it's not really fair on them to decrease the price. So you might just want to do something like that as a seasonal offer instead. In terms of signing up on Thinkific, and I'm sure it's similar on the others, there is a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you do decide to go for the $49 a month package, then you can get your money back. In terms of receiving payments, I've talked about how you spend. Their payment processor is Stripe, not PayPal. Many of us are familiar with PayPal. Thinkific uses Stripe, but it is very easy to set up. I found it straightforward. The key difference with Stripe as opposed to PayPal is that you can't withdraw your funds straight away. So with PayPal, if somebody buys your course, you can access that money straight away and transfer it to your nominated bank account. It's not the same with Stripe. It goes into a holding thing and then is released according to the time frame that you've set, which might be weekly or it might be monthly. So that was my whistle-stop tour of creating online courses. I do offer one-to-one and organisational coaching as well. So if that's something you're interested in, my contact details are at the end of this presentation. I hope you found it useful. Subscribe to my channel. I'm doing these webinars about working online every week, and they will go up on the Inspiring Women Changemakers YouTube channel. Thank you.